Happy Wednesday, everybody. I am DJ Riley, one of the hosts from Boys on the Bench, and I am hoping that we can have a great hump day today with these top 3 NBA picks that I have for you today. Now, if you are new to this channel, my betting style is just positive EV. And the way that I get all of my information is through Daily Grind Fantasy. It has proven to be profitable not only for me, but many other sports bettors. They have such a great community through Twitter. So make sure you're checking them out as well. You can find all of that information through my Twitter as well, which is linked in the description below, not only to our main page, but also my personal page as well. Now, Daily Grind Fantasy, I do have a code that will give you 25% off of your first month if you use the code bench. And guys, I'm telling you, it will be one of the best investments you will make because, again, positive EV is really just one of the most profitable ways of sports betting. And it's why I continue to use it day in and day out. It makes my research extremely easy, but I will kind of be showing you some historical stats as well through Outlier, just kind of backing my picks and showing you why some of these sports books may be leaning one way or the other towards these picks. But regardless, whatever positive EV value I am getting, I will be using that as well. Now, I won't be necessarily using prize picks like I did typical. There wasn't any value on there. But I will be using ParlayPlay, which is why kind of that title is there. So if you don't have ParlayPlay, make sure you are checking that out as well. But also make sure you're checking out that Twitter more importantly, because I will be posting more additional picks through prize picks once more value starts to get added and there starts to be some more variances and discrepancies between all of these sports books. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and jump into this video. And if we hop over here to ParlayPlay, again, like I said, I only have 3 picks for you today, but that top pick that I have for you is that Jason Tatum going over 14.5 rebounds plus assists, Bam Adebayo going over 12.5 rebounds plus assists, and then Brandon Ingram going under 25.5 points plus rebounds. So if we look at what we are getting from Daily Grind Fantasy, again, we can start to see all of these here. I am only picking plays from today, but we can see that we're getting better positive EV value odds for Thursday's games and even Wednesday's games. Now, this one doesn't have a high percent odds to hit. You're getting plus odds here, which is good because it's positive EV, but it is a little bit of a stretch taking some of these plays on this book. But again, if you look here, for instance, on this play here, coming in at 6.5 is what their projections are at, and you're getting plus value odds. But then you can see here that they are offering 5.5 line, but they're heavily favoriting it, meaning that it's likely to go over there. But then even FanDuel is coming in at 6.5 with that play. But we're only getting a less than 50% odds to hit, so I am staying away from that play, although we were getting pretty good positive EV value play here. But that first play that I had for you was this Jason Tatum going over 14.5. We can see here that ParlayPlay's line is coming in at roughly minus 120, but then really the average odds amongst other sports books is minus 138. So roughly 18-point juice is what we're getting on them. Now, if we look at here at other sports books and what we are getting, again, we're getting this line at 14.5. Currently, FanDuel is the only book offering this at 14.5, where every other sports book is offering this at 15.5, essentially giving us a 1-point edge, and we are getting this at minus 120 odds on ParlayPlay, which is crazy good for us. So if we hop over here to Outlier, as I mentioned before, again, we are looking at his over 14.5 here. Looking at his head-to-head matchups, he has played this Miami team 4 times this season, but his two most recent times, he has cleared this with 19 and 20, nearly going 10 and 10 in both of those games with 10 rebounds and 10 assists, but it was really just 9 assists in that game. Now, it is surprising because, I mean, obviously Tatum is very good, but versus a small forward position, we can see Miami nearly ranks top 10 in both of these regards, but Jason Tatum has really found a way to get it done, nearly having double-digit rebounds in every single one of their matchups. Really, it's his assist numbers that have gotten the best of him here recently. Now, looking at his potential assist opportunities, really it's his last 2 games where we started to really see him dominate assist-wise, so they figured something out for him. But in the other ones, his assist numbers, we can see again were lower, but 4 and 8, really those two together didn't even add up to equal his last 2 games versus them. Rebounding chances, he's honestly done worst versus them, where his typical average is up around that 15, anywhere from 15 to 18, but we're now seeing him 11, 14, 13, 12, right? So it's worse, but he's still getting high rebounding numbers with nearly double digits in every single one of those. So I do expect that again today. Offensive and defensive rebounding. We can see here that Miami is very good offensive rebounding team. Defensively, they only allow the third least in all of the NBA. But we can see again that that's not really part of Jason Tatum's game. Very hard to get offensive rebounds in the league. He only has 3 in the 4 matchups that they played. He's getting a ton of defensive rebounds, however, which they are first in getting. The Celtics are getting, and I think that that's mainly because of their kind of bigger forward play that they have in Jason Tatum. So anyways, though, we're getting really good positive EV value play from him. Head-to-head matchup, he's done really well. Even looking at his last 10, he hasn't hit it a ton, but really it's that more important matchup versus Miami where we see him absolutely dominating that line. But let's go ahead and move on to the next pick that I have for you, and it was that Bam Adebayo going over 12.5 rebounds plus assists. Let's hop over here to Daily Grind Fantasy and see where we have that play. If we scroll down just a little bit, again, we got a couple Thursday plays built into here. But this Bam Adebayo play here coming in at 55.78% chance to hit. Parlay Play's line is coming in at 133. This line is coming in at minus 150. So again, another 17-point edge here. We're getting this at 12.5. All of these other sports books, except for FanDuel, again, is offering this at 13.5, giving us that 1-point edge. So hop over here to Outlier and see what we've got going on here. Looking at his last 10, he's only hit this in 5 out of his last 10, but really more importantly, 1 out of his last 6 games. But versus the center and versus the center position as well, this Boston team is very good versus centers, allowing the second least amount of rebounds to the position and then 8 at least amount of assists to the position, which is why he's kind of struggled versus them really this season. Again, only 4 matchups versus them this season. His most recent one in this playoff, he only had 6 rebounds, 3 assists, coming in at 9 when we need him to have 13. But we can see here in their prior matchup, in that February matchup, he had 13 rebounds alone, clearing this line, again, with just rebounds, but then also had 4 assists here as well. Now, if we look minute-wise here, I expect him to be around that 36 as he typically does. I think we have a couple outlier games here, which we could see depending on how competitive this game is. Boston absolutely blew them out of the water this last game, 114-94, and a lot of that was from garbage time, but still 20-point difference there. So I do expect him to play a little bit more time, if anything, hitting around that 38. Rebounding chances, though, we saw his numbers go down, 11 rebounding chances versus them, whereas his prior matchup, he had 20. I do expect that number to be around that 15, 16, kind of the level in between, a step up from that 13 or anything else like that. Assist numbers, we're not going to get a ton of a potential assist from him. It looks like he's had at least 5 in 3 out of the 5 or 4 games that he's played against them this season, but we're not getting high assist numbers 2 to 4 and 3, right? So maybe 2 to 3 at most, really depending upon kind of double-digit rebounds for him today. And we look at his last 10, hasn't really, again, been doing too well versus them. It's that Boston team. It's going to be tough. But where I really like them is we're getting great positive EV value plays. Here, I'm expecting a couple more minutes from Bam Adebayo today, which, again, I fully expect that. I don't think that this is going to be the same type of game. Hopefully it's not the same type of game as that game 1 matchup where they got started hot and just really didn't look back. But that brings us to our last pick that I have for you today, and this is Brandon Ingram going under 25.5 points plus rebounds. See what we are getting from Daily Grind Fantasy here. So we got to scroll down a little bit. Points plus rebounds. Again, we have a couple Thursday plays built in there other than this Caleb Martin, but we're getting plus value odds here, that 46. But this is the play that I was looking at. With a 53.07% odds to hit. We are getting a minus 120 odds from ParlayPlay, with the average sportsbooks giving us lines at minus 132. Again, we are getting this at 25.5. Every other sportsbook, again, except for FanDuel, is giving us at 24.5, giving us that 1-point edge, which is why we're getting pretty good positive EV value odds here. So if we hop over here to Brandon Ingram, see what we are getting. We're looking for the under 25.5 points plus rebounds here for him. He has hit this under in 8 out of his last 10 games versus Sacramento and Portland were the only 2 games that he went over. But in his most recent matchup versus OKC in these playoffs, he only managed to get 18, had 12 points, 6 rebounds. Looking at his head-to-head and how he's done versus this OKC team, he's faced them twice this season, and in both times, he hasn't cleared 20. right? Versus that small forward position. That's mainly because OKC ranks top 10 and points and rebounds allowed to this position. And Brandon Ingram has really suffered greatly from it. Rebounding chances, he's not having a ton, hasn't hit double-digit rebounding chances versus this team. Field goals, he shot a good amount of field goals this last game with 17. Didn't make a lot of them, but I think that, obviously how he's been here, he can afford to make a couple more, and we're still sitting fine. So even if he shot a higher percentage, I think that we still are in a pretty good position here with Brandon Ingram going under 25.5 points plus rebounds versus this very tough OKC team. But anyways, though, guys, these are my top 3 picks. But as I mentioned before, make sure you're checking out that X profile, because there I will be posting more picks throughout the day. There is some afternoon baseball. So again, make sure you're checking that out because I will be posting later. Anyways, though, let's have a great hump day, and I will see y'all tomorrow.